Hello everybody. I want to talk a little bit more about how you can invite your horse to be on the bit and to stay on the bit in walk-trot transitions. And there's another video or two that I will put links into the description. You can also look and use as reference points, but in general, I always want to talk about, having a horse on the bit in the context of connecting the horse from the back end to the front, meaning our lower legs invite the horse's hind legs to step further underneath, push off. The energy travels over the horse's back, through the rider, into the horse's front, into his mouth or her mouth, and then through the reins back into an elastic rein contact that the rider provides. And that way you have what I call the circle of aids. And within this energy circle, there's sort of an energy that flows and that has sort of a sense of positive tension about it. And horses really enjoy that kind of creation, and it always starts from the rider. And so I always say we're going to have a conversation here, and I'm going to give you an impulse. I say, how about this? The horse says, okay, or maybe, or not. And then we're entering into this like minute, very detailed little conversation of, our, exchange of impulses and feedback, and then how I feel the horse influences how I react in the next step, and all these good things. And so before you know it, you have something that is an ongoing basis of like a fluidity, of kind of a mode of operation that you both agree upon. And that is, ideally the horse being on the bit. And as I always say, the hind end has to be active, and in the front you can't have the blockade in the mouth. So you always have to invite the horse to yield in the jaw. And again, there's another video about that or two, and I'll put links everywhere. But long story short, I want to talk a little bit about how you can invite your horse to stay supple throughout his or her whole body while we're, maintaining the circle of the aids. And of course, the mouth of the horse always has a big role in all of this, and there are so many different ways that people can invite a horse or, try to make a horse to be on the bit. And I always think, invitations are better than, requests and measures to ask the horse to be obedient right away. So let's say you have invited your horse to understand the concept of the yielding to the aids, to the inside aids, which means that, the horse will release tension in the jaw when you ask with the lower leg, and if you have a little bit of the inside rein tension, right? So, and then to go into transitions for a horse that's inexperienced or uneducated in these manners, I've shown you how you can use small circles and corners to go into the most ideal, sort of environment where you have the biggest likelihood for the horse to step into the rein contact and up into the next gait from the walk into the trot without losing, that nice, beautiful fluidity that I was just talking about, right? So that's one thing. So now we're going to the next place where we're starting to address how am I going to do the same thing? How am I going to apply this yielding to the inside aids concept on the straight line? And so I want you to visualize sitting on the horse as I am right now, and you have the horse's front end, which becomes a little bit more narrow because of the way the horse is shaped. And so ideally, if I would just ride straight along the wall, I would have the horse's inside leg step a little bit outside of the tracks, just because the horse is narrower in the front, and it's almost like a haunches in. I'm exaggerating it right now. I don't know if you even can see it like this, right? So you want to do, in order to set your horse up for success for a good transition in the walk, you want to do the opposite. You want to bring the horse's overall orientation a little bit inward. So that means that you're going to help the horse to step and take up more weight underneath himself, underneath his or her step of center of gravity with her or his inside leg. So I'm going to go into what you might call an exaggerated shoulder-fore like mode here for a moment. I don't know if you can see that. It's probably hard to see from this angle. So I'm going to talk about it more than I'm going to try and show it to you from this angle. So shoulder-fore is traditionally understood as, the inside hind leg stepping in between the two footprints of the front legs, which is, such an incredibly detailed and specific and, hard thing to really ride and execute. So I will refer to it as a shoulder-fore-like orientation, right? Meaning as a rider, I'm going to sit a little bit more heavily weighted on my outside seat bone. My inside leg is the predominantly driving one this whole time. Outside leg is a tiny little bit back in the supporting position. And so I'm going to orient my horse so that I can have a little bit more of a view of her left facial side right now. So, or you can also say I will cause her to flex in her pole so that I can see a little bit more of her left eye than anything else on her facial side, right? So then, once I have that in place, I'm going to help the horse to push and lean into the first step of trot by taking that inside rein and stabilizing it a little bit. And there are two different ways that you can help the horse to feel this while your inside leg predominantly drives and activates as we're getting ready to trot. One is you can lean your fist of your inside rein right here onto the pommel on the left spot next to the pommel. And the outside rein becomes a little bit lower and wider, and it can almost go into the direction of your knee, but it also becomes more or less, not completely stable, but much more sort of quiet, so that the horse can feel it in that moment of the transition. And I'm demonstrating it like that in a moment, but then the other part I want to show you, you can also raise your inside hand as your outside hand stays low and closer to your knee. Right? And both of those things combined with your weight in your outside seat bone and your inside leg predominantly driving will put your horse into a shoulder-fore-like position. Lots of things to think about and to talk about, but this is what it takes sometimes. So I'm now going to breathe in and ask, and here is my trot. And then I'm breathing out and give a tiny little bit of a squeeze on the outside rein. And then I have to make sure that when I am in the walk that I will go back into whatever giving and taking rein contact I can comfortably offer to my horse. So in the medium walk, it's giving and taking with both hands. And, you can also go into shoulder to shoulder mode, which is one rein at a time. But for this purpose, I would say focus on whatever works well for your horse. And we're going to do it again. Inside leg is closer to the girth, predominantly driving. Inside rein is by the pommel. Outside rein is a little bit farther back. And this may feel a little strange at first to you because you're basically not holding on to the horse. You're giving your horse a certain parameter in which she or he can operate, right? And I'm going to do it again here. Just a moment here, a little bit up here. So in the corner, I give a little bit with the outside rein so she can bend. And you can see how these things are not perfect because I've been talking so much and I've been holding the reins in a static way to demonstrate for you. So I can feel how Thana is not completely relaxed, her body wondering a little bit what the hell I'm doing up here. But I just wanted to give you a taste of, I'm going to do it again here, of what it could be like for you as you are trying to invite your horse to go up and down in your walk-trot transition. So up transition, breathe in, inside leg, inside flexion, weight and outside seat bone. Breathe out in the down transition, a little bit of knee pressure, perhaps a little inside leg against outside rein squeeze feel if you have a horse that's very forward, so that you can manage when and where exactly you want to, begin and to end your transition. So ideally, once you've practiced this a little bit, I always say it's a nice idea to, go from one letter to another. If you have a dressage arena to work in, breathe in at the letter, a few steps of trot, and then breathe out, down transition right at the next letter, right? And that way you have a little bit of a, breathe in again here at the letter, and then come around the corner, breathe out, and you have a little bit of a, here, and I'm going to give you a long rein, thank you, Thana, you have a little bit of a a system in place for yourself as you're focusing on all these different details that are a lot to think about. I totally give you that. But you've got to start somewhere. And as I always say, all these things that I'm demonstrating here, they're all, far from perfect, depending on the horses that I ride. And a lot of times I don't ride them all very regularly, and we have lessons and other things happening in between, So it's always just an example of work in progress, what you're seeing here. But I want to give you some tools and some ways to try different things with your horse along a certain system, along a certain methodology that makes sense to me in the way I ride and teach. And with all that, I hope you have a little bit more ideas and you got a little bit of inspiration for, what you could try at home with your horse. And happy riding. Thank you, Thana. Good girl. So.